Good afternoon, members of the committee. Today I'm presenting a consultancy proposal focused on a key challenge arising from multiculturalism within RMIT University. As a global university operating across diverse cultural environments, RMIT benefits greatly from diversity. However, multiculturalism also introduces structural complexities that requires careful understanding. In this proposal, I will identify one team-level multicultural challenge and demonstrate why investigating this issue is strategically important for RMIT's sustainable growth. RMIT is a globally connected university with over 90,000 students across its international campuses and partnerships. Among these, more than 18,000 students come from over 100 countries, which includes China, Singapore, Vietnam, Australia, and many other regions. This multicultural composition means that within any typical cohort, especially at RMIT, where programs are delivered through transnational arrangements, interactions among students are inherently culturally diverse. With group-based learning fundamental to the program, this diversity becomes a lived reality within team dynamics every semester. At RMIT, education is delivered within a highly multicultural cohort. Group-based assignments are embedded across programs to simulate real-world collaboration. This means multicultural teamwork is not incidental, it is structural. And with RMIT position itself to an inclusive, globally connected institution, effective multicultural collaborations become central to its mission. And it is within this context that the proposed challenge emerges. The challenge I propose to investigate is that the cultural communication differences within multicultural student teams reduce collaboration effectiveness and psychological safety. This is not about individual competence. It is about how deeply embedded cultural orientation shape participation, leadership expectation, feedback styles, and conflict responses within team-based learning environments. Problem I propose to investigate is that cultural communication differences significantly influence the effectiveness of collaboration and psychological safety in multicultural student teams. At the team level, differences in communication norms can reduce participation equity, create misinterpretation, and limits open dialogue. When psychological safety is weakened, students may hesitate to speak up, challenge ideas, or contribute fully. Over time, this results in reduced collaboration quality and uneven team performance. These consequences do not remain confined to individual teams. They scale upwards to influence student satisfaction, academic outcomes, and perceptions of inclusion. At the institutional level, inconsistent student experiences may affect retention, word-of-mouth reputation, and RMIT's competitive positioning as a global university. Therefore, this is not simply a communication issue. It is a structural multicultural challenge which has direct implications for RMIT sustainable growth. This challenge operates at a team level, specifically within multicultural students project teams embedded across RMIT's curriculum. RMIT hosts students from a wide range of national backgrounds, including Singapore, China, Indonesia, Vietnam, and other countries across Asia and beyond. These students bring different cultural orientation that influence how they communicate, participate, and interpret team dynamics. For example, in many societies such as China, Vietnam, and Indonesia, cultural norms tend to reflect higher power distance, where hierarchy and respect for authority are emphasized. Students from such backgrounds may be more cautious about challenging peers openly or expressing disagreement directly. In contrast, students from cultures such as Australia or the United States may be more accustomed to lower power distance norms, where equal participation and open debate are encouraged. Cultural orientation towards individualism versus collectivism also influence expectations in teamwork. Students from more collectivist cultures such as China or Indonesia may prioritize harmony and group cohesion, while students from more individualistic culture such as Australia or the UK may prioritize personal expression and direct contribution. Communication styles also vary. Many Asian cultures tend to lead to a more high-context, indirect communication, where meaning is implied and preserving face is important. In contrast, Western cultures often adopt a more low-context, direct communication, where clarity and explicit feedback are valued. When these communication norms intersect within multicultural student teams, misunderstanding can arise, not due to the ability, but due to the differences in expectation about hierarchy, debate, feedback, and participation. As multicultural teamwork is embedded across the curriculum, communication differences at team level have broader implications for educational quality, students' retention, and RMIT's global positioning as an inclusive and industry-connected university. To better understand why communication differences emerge within multicultural student teams, we can refer to HOSEF's Cultural Dimensions framework. Two dimensions are particularly relevant here: power distance and individualism versus collectivism. Power distance refers to the extent to which culture accepts hierarchy and unequal distribution of authority. In higher power distance culture, individual may be more comfortable with structured hierarchy and less inclined to openly challenge others in group settings. And in lower power distance culture, equal participation and open debates are more commonly expected. When students from this different orientation collaborate within the same team, expectation around leadership, decision-making, and participation may differ significantly. The second dimension, individualism versus collectivism, explains how culture prioritizes personal expression versus group harmony. Students from more individualistic culture may feel comfortable asserting opinions directly and independently, while students from more collectivist culture may prioritize cohesion and avoid overt disagreement to maintain harmony. When these orientations intersect in multicultural teams, differences in voice distribution, feedback style, and conflict responses naturally arise. In addition to value differences, Ball's high context and low context communication theories help explain variation in communication styles within multicultural teams. In high context culture, communications tend to be indirect. Meaning is often implied rather than explicitly stated, and maintaining harmony is prioritized. In low context cultures, communication is typically more direct and explicit. Clarity, transparency, and open feedback are expected. When students from high context and low context communication cultures collaborate within the same team, interpretation gaps can emerge. Direct feedback may be perceived as confrontational or overly assertive, while indirect communication may be interpreted as disengagement or lack of contribution. These differences are subtle, but over time they shape participation patterns. Students may be more cautious about speaking, and some voices may dominate while others withdraw. This will cause a psychological safety gradual decline. And when psychological safety declines, collaboration effectiveness follows. The impact of this challenge extends beyond individual teams. At the student level, reduced psychological safety lowers confidence, participation, and sense of belonging. At the academic level, miscommunication and uneven contribution weaken collaboration quality and learning outcomes. At the institutional level, inconsistent student experience may affect retention and reputation, particularly within RMIT's international cohort. Strategically, if multicultural communication differences are not fully understood, diversity risks shifting from competitive advantage to operational friction, and this would directly influence RMIT's long-term sustainable growth. To conclude, I have proposed a team-level multicultural challenge which will have an impact on RMIT. Because team-based learning is structurally embedded in RMIT's model, these dynamics extend beyond individual groups to affect student experience, academic outcomes, and institutional reputation. If left under-examined, this challenge may gradually influence RMIT's sustainable growth and global positioning. This investigation is therefore not about isolated team issues. It is about safeguarding RMIT's long-term multicultural advantage. And with that, I've come to the end of my proposal. Thank you for listening.